Any
cool.
second now. Perhaps the sentence will be live. I don't know. What was the first word heard live? I don't know. We hit the
Trust.
go live button mid sentence, so that's how life hits you sometimes. It's just you think that you're trying to escape the holodeck, but all of a sudden you're like, oh no, our ship was hijacked. Now there's the Dauntless right there, right outside of
That
the
was
view
such
screen
an
window.
awesome scene, by the way.
I
Oh my gosh.
I did not expect that the show where I would go, holy shit, the most at end of the episodes would be the kid show that during this entire more than Discovery or Picard.
I know this is not, we haven't even done the intro yet, but the horns, like what composer Nami did
Mhm.
with the horns was amazing in that scene. Crazy.
Well, let's talk
stuff.
about it. I think we have at least one comment in our live audience, so hopefully people are tuning in. Yeah, let's just go ahead and get the show started. I'm Fathery.
I'm Starfleet Boy.
I'm Rachel.
And this is Tex-Trek.
Engage.
Welcome back aboard the Starship Texas for the 220th installment of the Tex-Trek podcast, the home of Star Trek fandom from deep in the heart of Texas, where we take a deep look at Star Trek, old and new. And tonight we are talking about Star Trek Prodigy Season 1, Episode 17, Ghost in the Machine, written by Chad Quandt and directed by Andrew L. Schmid. And Schmid, I think. Sorry, Andrew. But yeah, it's gonna be a lot of fun to talk about this. We're getting close to the end of the season. Only 3 more to go. My dog is clearly excited about that, but only 3 more to go.
Hi, Amos.
Hi, Doggo.
Yeah,
dog.
He's hard to work with when I'm home alone. When my partner Antonia isn't here, because he'll just bark at whatever walks by the front door. He wants to sit there and wait for her to come home. So anytime someone walks by, sorry about that.
Sweet, actually, but it's all right. I understand dog, and sometimes he's talking about the show. He gets excited about what you say.
Well, before we talk too much about this episode, though, I do want to do a little bit of housekeeping and grabbing the dog. Okay. I got him. Should be good now. But yeah, let's just do a little bit of housekeeping. I want to give a big thank you to all of the Tex-Trek Patreon supporters out there. It really means a lot to us. That includes you, Starfleet Boy, but also Cake is Eternal, Gay Clevin Lundstrom, Crazy Dutchie, Joanne Robertson, Quarksbar, John Dawes, Sci-Fi Haven, and our anonymous supporters. Thank all of you so very much. To celebrate how much we appreciate your support, we're actually going to be hosting our monthly Tex-Trek watch party that we do every month for our Patreon supporters over in the Tex-Trek Discord server. And we're going to be watching the episode Elementary, My Dear Data, which introduced the hologram version of Moriarty. He's making his big return very soon in Picard Season 3. So in January, we're going to watch the follow-up episode, Ship in a Bottle. And yeah, that's going to be tomorrow, Saturday, December 10th at 3:30 p.m. Central. If you're listening to this later, you're not going to be able to make it unless you can time travel. But if you're checking us out live, then please go sign up on the Tex-Trek Patreon if you want to participate in the watch party. You can come in as little as $2 per month. If you want to be more generous, we have some additional perks too if you want to come in at some of the higher tiers. But it would really mean a lot to us. And if you're out there and you're listening and you enjoy the Tex-Trek content, but you're unable to help out on Patreon, You can still really help us out by rating us wherever you get your podcast. If you want to give us a rating there, and most importantly, try to subscribe to the YouTube channel if you're not subscribed. We're getting very close to that 1,000 subscriber goal we set for the end of the year. I think we're at 974, I think, currently. But we're also getting very close to the end of the year, so I don't know. It's like a toss up. I don't know if we're gonna hit the goal or not. It's possible, but we really need to get some more subscribers very quick. So if you do that, I have promised to sing my least favorite song of all time, Star Trek Enterprise's "Faith of the Heart." I will sing that entire song, every word of it. My dog is like choking on he's like hearing me, like he's just disgusted. He's like, I can't believe my dad would sing that wretched song, but I'll do it. I know some of y'all like it. Some of y'all like it. So
hey, Father, you got a new subscriber, Tara, I think, or at least a new member of the audience, who I met earlier today on Starfleet Boy.
Oh, cool, Tara. Well, hit subscribe and help us out.
And tell your friends too, because we want to hear Father sing.
They really want to torture me, Tara.
Remember, subscribing.
Yes,
you could just if you don't like it, you could just mute Fathery and move on with your life. You can
just turn off the notifications and just ignore that you're subscribed to this channel.
But I guarantee
or you could try to check out our content and hopefully enjoy it. But
Oh, look at you got an endorsement from Aaron Walke.
Aaron Walke, yeah, the writer producer on Star Trek Prodigy, who has joined us in the live audience. So Andrew, thank you, or Aaron. I was thinking of the director of the episode, Andrew. So thank you, Aaron, for being there. But yeah, I think that's all the. Oh, I forgot. We have some tragic news. Unfortunately, the Star Trek family said goodbye to a member earlier this week with the passing of Kirstie Alley. Or Kirstie Alley. How do you say her name?
Kirstie.
Okay, that's what I said. For some reason, it didn't sound right. But Kirstie Alley,
I've heard people pronounce it almost like Christy by saying Kirstie, but I don't know.
Yeah. But most famously known to us, to Star Trek people, as the original Saavik actor in The Wrath of Khan, which was kind of the beginning of her big career in Hollywood. I think maybe Cheers is her most iconic work overall. But yeah, that's always sad to see. The age of 71. I know she had cancer. It was something that she wasn't public about. I heard she was on The Masked Singer. I don't watch that reality show, but she was on there a few months ago. But yeah, her family said she'd been struggling with cancer for a while, and so it's always sad. I know that Starfleet Boy, you've talked to me before about how you were really inspired about some of the work she did, or some of the book she wrote, or some of the talks she gave and stuff.
Oh yeah, well, also just I didn't agree with a lot of the stuff that she kind of aligned with recently, but I think that she did this thing called Fat Actress, and it was kind of one of the first things that kind of pushed humans to kind of
what was that exactly?
Was that it was
that a book, or
no? It was it was a show,
a one-woman show.
Yeah,
it's Carrie Fisher would do.
It was
stuff
a movement
that too, right?
Yeah, Carrie Fisher. Yeah, exactly that kind of stuff. Yeah,
Kirstie Alley could have been our Carrie Fisher for our franchise. I mean, yeah, she did kind of go off the deep end and got into a lot of wacky stuff later in years, but which is sad, and we should remember that she did that, but also remember the good stuff about her too. It sounds like she kind of got screwed over with some of her Star Trek work, not kind of getting a lowball offer to come back for Star Trek 3. I've seen some conflicting reports over what exactly happened, but it sounds like Star Trek 2 was a big hit. And they, expanded the role for Star Trek 3, and she asked well, hey, I kind of have a career going now. Could you give me more money? And her agents, I guess, the way that the agents tried to strong arm Paramount, and Paramount kind of said, well, screw y'all. We'll just recast this character. We gotta give the big bucks to Nimoy and Shatner. So,
And
But
we got lucky and got an awesome second Savick. So
yeah,
actually, as far as
I've
the
met
franchise
Robin
is
Curtis.
concerned,
Yeah, she is a very sweet woman. I highly encourage you, if you ever go to a Star Trek convention and Robin Curtis is there, like go talk to her. Like she tells people, like, even if you're not gonna like buy an autograph or a picture or anything, come talk to me. I just like to talk to y'all. It's a very 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 sweet person.
really
so
sweet.
yeah, and she had some kind words to say about Kirstie Alley. So check out Robin Curtis on social media. But I think that's everything. So y'all ready to talk about some Star Trek Prodigy?
Yeah.
Okay, well, this episode we got a classic holodeck shenanigan episode, as I like to call it. Yeah, I'm just going to quickly recap it by reading the official synopsis for Ghost in the Machine, and then I'll kind of expand on that with spoilers just to refresh it for everyone. The official synopsis reads: when the crew gets trapped in the holodeck by a mysterious malfunction, they aren't sure what's programmed or what's real. So it's kind of like that. Are we all just brains in a jar somewhere, living in a simulation, living in the Matrix? Kind of taps into that a little bit. I'll just kind of go first, kind of give some of my broad thoughts on this episode as my opening statement, and then ask what y'all think. But I think the real struggle with holodeck episodes that Berman-era Star Trek found themselves in was that they returned to the well a little too much. And I think when we got into like the later seasons of Voyager, it became harder and harder to make those holodeck episodes feel unique. Fairhaven and Spirit Folk, being like primary examples of like a very like boring and trite holodeck story. So I think that's like the thing now, like the modern Star Trek is kind of getting back into holodecks and stuff. Is like you got to put your own spin on it every time you do it. And I felt like they kind of did that here by doing the mystery, and then it's almost kind of, well, I don't want to spoil this other thing I was about to talk about, mystery related, so you got to be careful. But the mystery wasn't what we thought. We think like the mystery is like, oh my god, like how are they gonna like find this key and all these clues to get out? But like the bigger mystery was like, oh no, this is all artificial. Who actually designed this and who trapped us here? So this kind of cool little misdirection type thing. I did not like this episode as much as the other ones we've gotten in this recent batch of episodes. I was trying to figure out why, and I did enjoy it, but I think it just the other episodes have done more to move the larger meta arc along, or meta story along. And we had that amazing cliffhanger last week with the diviner's karate chop to Janeway, and like, oh my god, what's going to happen next? I need to see what happens next on the Dauntless. And it's kind of a risky move this episode, I think, like not ignoring that, but just like not showing what was going on there until the very end. And even then, like, we still don't know. But at the end, we get like another big cliffhanger here with the Protostar actually being face to face with Dauntless. The worst case scenario they were trying to avoid. What turns out like that happened while they were all trapped in the holodeck. So I felt like it didn't really move like the bigger plot along. But like right at the very end, it's like, okay, like we didn't actually take the car anywhere, but at the very end of the episode, okay, now like the foot is coming down on the gas pedal. So as soon as we pick up in next week's episode, then it's really going to take off, or at least that's what it seems to me. So I'm very much anticipating next week's episode, and I guess I'm just curious to hear what y'all thought about this one. So Starfleet Boy, if you want to go ahead and just kind of give us your overall impression with this week's episode, Ghost in the Machine. Is it a machine or the machine? It's like Ghost in the Shell or Ghost in the Shell. I always get that mixed up.
I think it was Ghost in the
Machine.
Yeah.
Okay.
First, I want to say that I'm pleased that Aaron is here to reassure me, because I'm worried sick about the Vice Admiral. So thank you. Thank you. I'm glad there's going to be a little bit more of that.
Yeah, Aaron Welke in our live audience, again, thank you for joining. But he says he understands folks want to see what's going on with Vice Admiral Janeway. And then he goes on to say, don't worry, there is plenty coming. So very exciting.
I imagine she'll be really pissed when she wakes up. But regarding this episode, I absolutely was riveted by the ending. Like the episode's already good enough. I'm in general, Fathery, just I'm a big fan of something in each holodeck episode. They all leave you with like an understanding of technology better, or like something interesting about a character or whatever. Like I've never loved the Robin Hood episode, with Worf and all that, stuff, but it also still is a cool episode,
That's not a holodeck episode, though.
Oh, see, it felt like a
It does. It's Cube deciding I'm gonna control everything.
All right, good. Holodeck episodes are safe. You see what I mean? I like and that was the only holodeck episode I didn't like.
I'm surprised you disliked that episode. But...
when I thought it was a holodeck episode, I absolutely hated it. But now I like it better now that I remember it's a Q episode. Starfleet Boy's old. He forgets things. No, but going back to holodeck episodes in general, it was very innovative. I liked the transitions. I liked how like the rain would melt the color away or things like that. It was really well crafted. I liked that Zero is enthusiastic, like he wants to be. I am not a merry man. Zero, Zero's like enthusiastic about like getting the mystery solved. He's like very much like helping them along, like he's done these a million times. And everything. I guess what I mean to say is that it was fun to watch the kids like kind of play again. Like we were seeing how they like relax or spend time, just like doing fun stuff. And it was nice because they're like, it started with the ice cream, helping them feel better, and they started to get, on this mission together. But then we're reminded in this like stark way that they're in a lot of like danger. It's like a very scary, crazy situation when the Dauntless, just like you said, like shows up at the end, and those horns are blaring. Like the horn section's like so awesome in that scene, and then Janeway realizing that I guess the living construct has been like the puppet master all along, like kind of turning off the Janeway program and then doing all this mischief and then coming back, and so she's been manipulating them without her programming's knowledge this whole time. And it's also another wild level, and you're like heartbroken when she's realizing that she's been putting these kids into harm's way, because her consciousness wouldn't ever do that, but there's another consciousness that can just switch her off whenever it wants to, which is the living construct. And it's like wild. So yeah, good stuff.
Did Father's sound go out for you?
I think so, yeah.
Oh, sorry. I didn't realize I was still on mute. I'm still trying to handle the dog and keep him from being too loud. So every time he like barks or something, that like makes it harder for me when I edit the audio for the podcast. But Rachel, what about you? What was your thoughts on Ghost
I also
of the
really
Machine?
like this. I also really like this episode. I'm like Starfleet Boy. I've always been a fan of a holodeck episode. I do agree they got a little overdone. However, I think I agree with Starfleet Boy that I feel like they'd always show parts of a character you wouldn't necessarily get to see in a normal episode, because seeing like, hey, this is what I do to enjoy myself. And I absolutely love the idea of the holodeck programs like combining into one, and then so they would just be like in the middle of like, hey, I deal with like cool Sherlock Holmes escape rooms. Cool, I'm gonna go beat up this biker gang. And what I've really been enjoying about Prodigy is like seeing how they do like major Star Trek themes or Star Trek tropes, but for kids. Like this or the Borg episode. It's been like really interesting to see and like think about that for some kid. This is going to be like their real first introduction to like a holodeck episode.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and one thing I left out that I should have mentioned about what I liked about this episode was that it really tapped into what Gene Roddenberry at one point envisioned the holodeck being, which was a device for exploring, let's get into a character's head, what are they thinking, what are they feeling. I think the only like great example of that we got in early Next Generation, when Roddenberry was kind of, talking about this idea, was, and we'll always have Paris, when we see, Picard is struggling with like, oh my God, I have all these feelings about, seeing this old flame of mine. And, he goes to the holodeck and he like recreates like their first date, or I guess not their first date, but like the date that he stood her up, right? He didn't show up. which is kind of weird that you could like recreate something like that specific on the holodeck. But I get the intent there. It's like a way to show flashbacks and stuff.
The way you're describing it reminds me, and I think the scene is in Captain America: Civil War, but you see Tony Stark recreating the last time he sees his parents.
Yeah. Well, and we also know Kevin Feige, the head honcho at Marvel Studios, is a massive Star Trek fan. So they steal stuff from Star Trek. Like doing a shared universe on TV and movies at the same time. Star Trek did that first. They did like the big ending for like their first generation of hero characters, like their big climactic ending. They have like the autograph actors signing their autographs at the end and the end credits, and get that from Star Trek. So lots of stuff. I see what you're doing over there, Kevin Feige.
And so I really enjoyed it. I don't know, I don't know if it's like my favorite, but it's like one of those. I was like, it's not my favorite, but also they're all amazing. So like, it's hard to choose a favorite.
Yeah, and I love what they do with the holodecks in these animated shows in both Lower Decks and then here at Prodigy, because you can do like some crazy stuff, like a lot of the visuals and stuff that be hard to pull off on a live action.
Massive like alien friend.
Yeah. So I am a big advocate for Lower Decks and Prodigy continuing to do holodeck stuff, and I think that's also going to help it feel fresh. Is just exploring the opportunities that animation opens up that the live action shows in the 90s couldn't do.
I need a Sparkle Sea Hugger like stat.
Well, it might hug you to death like it did that pirate ship.
Okay, what about the glitter hug? What was it? The glitter
if
hugger?
This
the
was
little
like
one?
Any other kid show, I'd be like, oh yeah, that's definitely gonna be a toy. We still don't have
them. We'll just get in the episode breakdown and start off talking about the very beginning where they're on the simulation. Kind of opens in media res. They're running these drills, but it doesn't tell you that they're running the drills, so you kind of think it's real at first. What did y'all think of that?
Love the solution of doing Morse code with the phasers. Like I loved seeing some of the things that they were gonna try. Like that was a
very clever idea.
I was like, that's like genuinely super smart. Like
right, we were all like, are they gonna write it on the hall? Yeah, that was cool. I like the whole thing. That was like it was kind of intense watching it like a third time because after all the snazziness, you realize, oh my gosh, these guys they're like just kids, and they're like having to like do these Kobayashi Maru scenarios where they die at the end like 80 times. Like that's so crazy. So that was kind of harsh, but also video games kind of are like that in a way. That hopefully they're not really training us for.
I said that in the episode Kobayashi when Dal keeps doing the Kobayashi Maru.
Oh,
on
that's
the holodeck.
Right. They've been through it before.
Yeah,
right.
But I said like that made it feel like a video game. We're like, okay, I gotta unlock this achievement, but I need, I'm trying like 100% this game or like whatever, and they have to attempt it so many times. I think a lot of kids find that relatable because video games are so popular these days. And a lot of the holodeck stuff here felt very much video gamey in a good way. Like if holodecks were real, I think this would kind of be how people use them.
Right.
Instead of going to a very dull Irish village, you could like play
I would
Street
go to
Fighter.
A dull Irish village or like
I've always
English
said
one.
I would like live out Jane Austen novels if I went to like a holodeck. It might be closer to the dull Irish village.
I would 100% have a Windy Corner holo novel that involved me and Freddie Honeychurch having an adventure.
I've always said like, and I feel like that Beowulf one is very much like the Beowulf Voyager one is very much like this. Like D&D would be on the holodeck.
Yeah, totally. That would take 100%. Over role playing. Like the people that like to GM games now, they would be like holo novel writers.
Yeah.
100%. I think that's true, and some would be like live watching and help like entering the game and playing with you, which might be fun too. I guess they kind of do that.
We do see the moment in the episode though when Gwen and Dal are talking about like, yeah, maybe we should just not go to Starfleet. We can't figure this out clearly. Like maybe we should just like consider other options, and that is what triggers the constructs. I don't know, algorithm or whatever it has.
I think they called it a
subroutine. Yeah, subroutine.
I think that's what they called it. Yeah.
The subroutine and the Janeway hologram. but we see them hanging out, eating ice cream, kind of doing more like that group bonding stuff they were doing last week in Preludes, where they're kind of just, talking to each other, like talking about like their problems, listening to each other. It felt like the kid version of like, adults going to the bar and getting a few drinks and socializing. It's like instead of that, they're doing ice cream.
I like, for some reason I was imagining with the Golden Girls and their cheesecake.
Like when they're all done, when like they leave the mess hall, or I mean, I guess like they're still on the holodeck, but when they think they're leaving the mess hall, it's like we stayed up way too late. We consumed way too much of this unhealthy substance that we really enjoy and does kind of make us feel better when we're having a bad day like this. So yeah, it was definitely like the kid version of like going to the bar, I think.
Oh yeah.
I mean, that little sugar rush that ice cream gives a kid is kind of the same thing for like a kid.
Can Zero eat? I'm just staring at the picture of Zero now, and I just had this thought.
I don't think he does, because he's non-corporeal.
Yeah,
he might empathically like experience some kind of sensation.
Like, how does ice cream feel to you? That sounds nice.
That's that I think that's how he would enjoy it.
I just Aaron's comment.
10 forward and Robins.
Okay, so that's the Protostar mess hall. We can now refer to it as 10 forward and Robins. That's from the writer producer. That is official canon, I believe, is how that works. YouTube comments count as canonical, right? I mean, they're technically on screen.
It's on
right?
screen, yeah. That's hilarious.
Did y'all notice that when Dal like passes out on his bed, the "Take Me Darkness" or whatever he says, like that music that started playing? Of course, there's no way to know this the first time, but I think that's the same song that Murph is singing later. It's like a different version of it.
Oh.
But the "Just Smile and Forget It."
That gave me this whole sequence was really cool. I even liked just like how kind of Dal was just like winding down, like, it was just like so, he's really like become this like kind of captain, this acting captain or whatever, and he's earning their respect and everything, but he still has the biggest quarters, which I think is hilarious.
Yeah, that's like, is no one mad about that?
I feel like, well, I mean, whatever. There's plenty of room on the Protostar.
Looks like a comfy bed. It's shame to let it go to waste. Someone should use it.
It feels like Rock Talk to have the giant bed. I like.
Remember when captain's quarters were small? Anyways, no, I'm just kidding. But what I guess what I was saying is like I love that because it kind of reminded me of The Shining, like with the creepy music and the
just like would appear like behind you and you're like, what is that?
Yeah, exactly. It was like a weird, there's music playing.
The beginning definitely had like a horror element to it.
It did. And, the
spooky,
episode being called Ghost in the Machine, I didn't know what to expect going into it. I try not to know much about these episodes before I watch them. But yeah, so I definitely thought we were gonna do kind of like a haunted ship or something. When Gwen thinks that there's a feral human, it was just one of the Tellarites walking around. But there's weird homeless dudes on here. There's fog. There's creatures that shouldn't be here. And then when we cut to the spooky lighthouse, I was like, yeah, like they're gonna do something awesome. Scary.
The transition was really cool too. I like how like, and it's funny because like you can just imagine after the revelation that all along Hollow Janeway's like switching to whatever is taking over the consciousness, however it takes over on her, but she's like totally like watching what they're doing and like setting them up to stay in there. Oh no, she actually told the holodeck to just do it, so the holodeck's just like creating scenarios for them to like it's wild that it would have just kept going and going.
Funny, this episode ironically reminded me of Ship in a Bottle because they tricked them into thinking they were on a ship.
That's right.
What's funny is at the beginning, and then I like changed my mind, is at the beginning I thought Janeway was doing it, but I didn't think it was for like bad motives. I thought that she was
concerned about them.
Concerned. It was like trying to get them to like work together on something fun to like loosen them up. And then when the safety protocols were off, I was like, oh, maybe not. She wouldn't do that. And then
And then getting the
maybe
command
she
codes,
would. Yeah.
Maybe, but I think getting the command codes was certainly something that the construct was manipulating the kids through. Like even though Janeway might not have been manipulating the situation. Maybe the construct was like, oh, let me increase the intensity so that Dao has to give the command codes over so I can hear them as well. I think that's going to come into play at some point.
Yeah.
Well, what did y'all think of the Cellar Door Society and that holo program?
That's a Tolkien reference, right?
Cellar Door Society? Not that I'm aware of.
No, just the what didn't J.R.R. Tolkien or someone, it was him or C.S. Lewis or something, said that's like
those are two different dudes.
I know, but they were around at the same time.
I know what phrase you're talking about, but I like in my head I'm imagining it being said in Donnie Darko.
Donnie Darko, yeah. That's how I learned about. That's how I learned about it for sure.
It's like if you didn't know the meaning, cellar door would be like the most beautiful word in the world.
Right.
So I imagine it probably has to do with that.
I forget that line, but yeah, possibly that. I don't know. If only we had like one of the writers on the show around to answer these questions.
But regardless, I love that little reference, and by the way, we know that Peanut Hamper has replaced the word cellar door as the most perfect set of words.
The
most mathematically perfect name.
Yeah, exactly. So
I think this was really cool, and I really. That we should just what he was describing was like an escape room, and I was like, "Oh my god, like that is the perfect use for a holodeck."
Yeah.
Like,
it is very escape roomy. I mean, my mind just went to Elementary, My Dear Data. Solving mysteries
there's
on the
definitely
holodeck.
that vibe to it, but
I guess a little bit like Dixon Hill involves some investigation stuff.
It makes sense to me. Maybe it's just because I like mystery stuff. It makes sense to me that people would like to use a holodeck for that. Like, I want to be able to like solve crimes, but I don't want to actually be like a police officer and have to solve someone's gruesome murder. I just want to like find treasure and stuff.
But I like the map. I like the different notes having to come together like that. It reminds me like I guess Indiana Jones was my thing, but I feel like one of the things kids do is like create maps to treasures and play that game or whatever. And it just reminded me of like, that's like, if I were a little kid now, I'd want to create like a key like this, which like where the players had to kind of
like reminded me, which has
like
very Indiana Jones vibe. And I'm sure they did something similar in one of the Indiana Jones movies. It's just been a while, but in National Treasure with the two glasses, you have to put the colors over each other to look at a map.
Right. Yes, it's like a nice homage to kind of those like it's cool how since the holodeck was shifting so much and mixing and matching that there's probably so many interesting little references you can find as you watch it. I love that. But yeah, this is a very nice
I mean, it was kind of a simple one, like, oh, we just like put these papers on top of each other. But I think that worked well for the short format that they have with
format, and also it's something where like you maybe want a kid to guess it like a couple seconds before the characters, so you don't want to make it too difficult.
It's not like we're watching like a mystery episode. This isn't a Cellar Door Society episode. This is
by the way,
a bunch of different things in the holodeck combined. So
Murph was awesome in this episode for a lot of reasons. Like,
I love Murph just one
thing,
in this one.
But he's here in this scene. He's like really trying to figure it out, and I'm like, is he actually like speaking, and we're just not hearing, like, understanding what he's saying and stuff? Like,
more on Murph in just a minute. I just want to point out that,
sure.
Aaron Welke did get back to us on the cellar door. He says that is a reference to the concept that happened to be mentioned in Donnie Darko. It also sounded like a Hardy Boys mystery, which was a brilliant idea from Chad. So there you go.
That's fair. And I read a way more Nancy Drew than I ever read of the Hardy Boys.
Chad being the episode writer, Chad Quandt. I'm sorry if I'm getting his last name wrong, but
it's a good name for a mystery society for sure.
Yeah. Good job, Chad. We approve.
What lays down at the cellar door?
Joel, Zero's feet joke. Yeah, the game is a feat. It's just like no one acknowledges it.
Yeah, well, it wasn't a good joke. It was a bad joke. What made it a funny gag for the episode, though, is that like Zero is like, get it? It's satirical. Like he's like, when someone like says like a joke that's not great, but then like they don't want to let it go, so it's like
one of my notes was this had the most quotable kind of things that I heard in a Prodigy episode so far. I feel like I have to go back and like really assess, but like there were so many little moments like that which were pretty cool.
The Murph stuff, like Murph is Like he's, I said like last week, like now that he has like arms and legs, he kind of seems like less expressive now that he's not, this big fluidic blob. Uh, he used to be kind of more like in Disney's Aladdin, like the carpet, the magic carpet. Like it's an inanimate, well, it's not an inanimate art, but it's like what would typically be an inanimate art, just like a carpet, doesn't speak or anything, but it's so expressive just with like body language and stuff. Like those animators came up with like a really brilliant character. And Murph kind of had like more like that. He's just like this very, very fluid, like in animation terminology, very, very fluidic. So I was like, okay, it's kind of like, he seems like less interesting now that he's more static, except I loved his actiony bits when he's, beating up Romulans. But then in this episode, like they did so much with him, like the way that he clings to Rock Talk, like she's like his mom,
So
or
sweet.
like yes, I was just the way that he's like participating, like when they're piling on the ice cream and you see him like participating there. It's like he's younger than like the other kids, but he wants to be like more grown up like them. So he's kind of like mimicking them is how it reads to me. And that even like the mystery stuff that we're talking about here, he's helping like put literally like when they're piecing the clues together, like he's involved in that. So I love seeing him be more active like that.
Oh, Aaron also cleared up. So I guess I have to go back and figure out what I was referencing. But it's actually Cellar Door is a reference to Nancy Drew, and that's where Donnie Darko probably.
Oh, I think he meant like it's sounding like a Nancy Drew novel.
Oh, I see.
Like
okay,
the same way it sounds like
okay.
Hardy Boys.
Gotcha.
Nancy Drew and Hardy Boys are very intertwined in that they were like made by the same company, and like both sets of novels are like they're all ghost written.
Right.
Well, if people out there follow our friend Aaron Harvey, aka Geek Filter, who's frequently on the show, couldn't make it tonight, but if you follow him on social media, he I think he's put this out to the public, but yeah, he's actually done a Hardy Boys like book cover, but with with a tie into this episode and with the Cellar Door Society. So
very cool.
People should follow him on social media. He has a lot of really cool art.
But also it reminded me of like the Disney's Haunted Mansion in a weird way too, kind of like that.
It's more like horror movie. It felt almost like a haunted house type of
thing.
Setting.
Yeah.
Well, like I feel like especially like the Haunted Mansion movie with Eddie Murphy, like that.
I never saw that.
I remember enjoying it. I haven't watched it since I was a kid though, so this is not an endorsement. I could not tell you.
The background designs, the set design, the virtual set designs are beautiful too. They're just like so
like
amazing.
this shot, that lighting is so cool.
Yeah, super cool. Oh yeah, especially in the wooden ship scenes later, Zero stood out as like interacting with the light very well and stuff. Like it was very cool, the renders and all that stuff.
But before we move on to the Tellarite biker street fight that we're about to talk about, it dawned on me when I was watching this episode, either the first time or the second time. But when I see all these characters standing around in the lighthouse library and they're trying to like work together, piece these clues together and stuff, it just made me realize like what a diverse cast of characters. That's such a crucial part of the Star Trek DNA is the infinite diversity and infinite combinations, going all the way back to the original series, when they wanted to have at the time an extremely diverse cast for a 1960s primetime television show. And then I was like, wow, Prodigy. I mean, I get like they're all kind of kids, they're all kind of kids that have been abandoned and are trying to like form like a newfound family together, so they have that in common. But beyond that, this is like the most diverse cast of characters, just like visually. Like we have like a slime worm and a purple augment boy and a Vonnegut and a Tellarite and a Bracar, and they're all just like
and a Medusa.
In a Medusan, and it kind of made me think of like that Roddenberry philosophy thing of not only like accepting other people's differences, but more than that, celebrating differences. And
one, I mean, I guess Janeway is kind of part of the main cast, but like the main Janeway we see is a hologram. Like no one's human, which like I find really interesting.
I mean, Dow is like closest to a human.
I forgot about that.
But he's like human plus. He's like human plus Vulcan and Klingon and Tellarite and Q and
He represents something really interesting. His designers, I can't wait to find out how his story unravels, because it feels like his designers were trying to make a statement. His parents, I'm just gonna call them his parents. The proteges of Soong.
Yeah.
I think they were trying to make a statement with him, and I hope he fulfills that statement. It's a good statement. It sounds like, based on what I'm hearing.
Well, let's talk about like what I called like the Streets of Rage or Kung Fury. It made me think of both of those. There's a old side-scrolling video game on Sega Genesis called Streets of Rage. For some reason, it made me like beating up these bikers. Made me think of that. I think they might have been going for Street Fighter, but it felt like very video game 80, very 80s, very cyberpunk.
It completely made sense for him. I was like, yeah. He would just want to do a button smash, beat him up. I mean, I button smash. I'm sure there's actual skill involved in these games. I don't have any of that skill though.
By the way, the music here was awesome too. Did y'all hear that like synth like video game 80s kind of vibe music? It was really good. It's like
I love that Jankum Pog, he's so like bitter and just he can't get over having another Tellarite, look down on him and talk shit to him. So he's like, I'm just gonna beat that dude up.
It's not even different Tellarites. It's just the one guy. It's just like
yeah. This is all Jason Alexander's character, Dr. Noam. So it was like Jason Alexander playing all these Tellarites. He's played more Tellarites than any other actor, I'm sure now.
What would like a Dr. Noam all Tellarite biker gang be called? Like instead of Hell's Angels, would it be like Gnome's Angels or something? I
don't know. The Teller Prime Thugs? I don't know.
Tellar's Angels. There you go. Tellar Prime's.
And they're like, is Janko Pog, he's doing like Dragon Ball Z, like Kamehameha, like shooting energy balls.
That's what I was like.
Hey, is this the first time we see the holodeck used like this? Because that's awesome.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. It's like people would do stuff like this. Like I wouldn't want to go in there and like shoot Kamehameha waves at people like I'm a Dragon Ball Z character.
Definitely.
I'm sorry, I'm laughing at Tara. Gnome way out. I really like that.
Good comment in our live audience from Tara.
Gnome to be wild. Sorry.
Although ironically, when someone asked me like what I would use the holodeck for, I was like, it depends. Is there just a holodeck all of a sudden in my world? Because if it's my world, I'd do Star Trek.
I feel like I haven't used it yet, but I feel like I used to use Second Life. I feel like Meta is doing stuff like this, but I don't know if I want to use Meta. I don't know about.
No one wants to use Meta. That's like the people working on Meta don't want to use it.
So I'm just waiting for Apple to do it because I'm already in their ecosystem, if you will. So we'll see.
So much so that I was like, how did this happen?
But do you guys go into video games already using goggle, like the virtual? Do you guys have that?
No,
I have the PlayStation VR.
That's cool.
Have to be careful because I get motion sickness.
I like to play Star Trek Bridge Crew on PlayStation VR. If anyone wants to play that with me, because I feel like I never have anyone to play with.
That sounds so good. But right now the only thing I have a Switch, which doesn't have a VR.
That's what I have too, and it doesn't have VR either.
Yeah.
But I'm thinking of getting the PS5. Although we've digressed. Sorry.
Well, no, that's okay. You can get. We're still Star Trek related if we're talking about Bridge Crew, but that's available on both PlayStation VR and Oculus, I believe.
I used to play Star Trek Online on my brother's PS4, but he moved out and he took his PS4 with him. So,
damn it, brother.
Yeah. Well, he had this plan where he's mentioned about something about getting a PS5, and I was like, "Oh, can I buy the PS4 off you?" And he's like, "Oh, I'll just give it to you." He's never been able to get a PS5. It was so hard. He ended up taking up golf instead.
Yeah, they are hard. I had to put in a lot of effort to get mine about a year ago. I did get it though. It is possible. Just you gotta really want it.
I think this is one of the. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Well, just on that note, speaking of game consoles, did y'all catch what Dow's security codes? What that referenced? GB64N32X.
No, what is that?
GB that's gonna be Game Boy. And then 64N, Nintendo 64, then 32X. That was the thing that you snapped on top of the Sega Genesis that made it look like better graphics.
That's great.
That is amazing. That's awesome.
Yeah. So Chad, you also played video games in the 90s.
I see. I was like, numbers.
That's pretty cool. Also, the other thing, before we go on from this, like, I am so glad that we're seeing like the holodeck used to trick physics as well. Like, because you could do that in the holodeck, like with the way the technology works. Like, you're supposed to be able to create anti-gravity situations if need be, and we've seen that on lower decks. With the Badgie episodes, and I can't recall an instance in the holodeck where you see it on the live action shows. But anyways, regardless, this is so cool. Like, just to play a video game, I would 100%.
Balana did
play
orbital
Zelda.
skydiving that kind of plays
Yeah.
around with
Oh
gravity.
yeah, you could do things like that. Yeah, exactly. So you have to it's wild. It's awesome. But
I
this is a way that you don't
love
usually see it.
the dynamic of them like just disappearing, because that felt very video game to me. It also felt very Buffy the Vampire Slayer to me.
Oh yeah, you fight these monstrous minions, and then they conveniently disappear. So your hero doesn't look like a mass murderer when they're just standing over like a sea of dead bodies. Yeah.
As ubiquitous as
where the reason they made the vampires disappear in Buffy is so they didn't have to write in like her hauling bodies. Like,
yeah, it's very convenient. Those TV vampires just turn to dust.
How ubiquitous do you think holotech is in like the future in general? Like, I know it's big on Star Trek, but like, I wonder if like these guys grew up playing video games in like kind of like community holo theaters or something.
I mean, they
like
grew
that.
up
Like,
on a prison colony, so I don't think.
Yeah,
that's
I don't
right.
think
Not
we
these
as
guys,
kids-
but like, yeah, you're right. That's true.
I
Sorry.
mean, Janeway.
they were given Game Boys. That's why. That's
also,
why Dal knows
also
that.
always been a little unclear how new the holodeck
It was
stuff is.
it was new in TNG season 1. Like the
Except that
technology
Janeway-
itself wasn't new, but just the programming with like the more.
one that's always confused me is Janeway talking about flooding the Flotter stuff as a kid.
Yeah.
And I was like,
Janeway?
was that in a holodeck?
No, she was like watching like the Nick Jr. show or something, I think.
Yeah.
But
But she implies she like controlled it in some way. And maybe it was a traditional video game, but
Because we know
when
they had like holodeck stuff from Discovery and the original series, the animated series, I should say, but it was never as like sophisticated as it was.
right when they did
Yeah.
the big goodbye, that was like the like look how advanced of characters this thing can create.
Right, can actually create, yeah.
The thing that we saw in Discovery that was like kind of limited, like it kind of felt like they just had to hang out together and shoot and use it for like training, but they didn't do like the weird things on the holodeck, like, okay, I'm gonna like walk over here and you're gonna walk over there and we'll like separate, stuff like that. Or it didn't have like, it just had like Klingon shooting at them. It didn't have like interactive characters that would be able to think up stuff on the fly. So if you look at the animated series, like their rec room, it was just creating like these environments, like you can go to the forest, or you can go to the beach, or you can go to the freezing cold tundra, or just it didn't have the interactive characters there either. So I think that was the thing in TNG. I think it actually makes sense that was like a new thing. I mean, I don't know like what Rachel brings up about Janeway, though. I'm not sure exactly.
The previous episode put into perspective for me that like also societies can have things like advanced things like way out of order. Like humans, Trip saw a very realistic holodeck thing when he got hey Aaron.
I heard animated series.
Computer, activate the emergency animated series hologram.
That's amazing.
You state the nature of your TAS emergency.
Welcome aboard, Aaron Harvey.
Yay.
Hello. I'll see how long my brain functions. I've had a bit of a flu or something this week, so I'm kind of out of it.
Everyone's getting I've been sick for like 3 weeks. It's crazy.
Yeah.
But I guess I was just gonna say the Tellurite thing from last episode reminded me of how like Tellurites had already had spaceships and were sending them on long range missions, and those ships they had robots, like they had these like kind of like these, I guess, whatever, like dot tellar things, the and stuff like that, way before humans had those things. So it's pretty cool. Like pre-Federation, they were sending those out.
These clues in the mystery that the holodeck is taking them on, like they're all like very obvious, but I guess the way it was thinking was like, I'm just gonna give them like a bunch of like obvious clues, so they never have too much time to like stop and question what's going on. It's like the tattooed ruffian flees, but he has like a tattoo of like the key on him, and then that's how they, I guess, discover the key club that they go to, which
I like that the
guess
skeleton key also has tusks from it's a Tellarite skeleton.
That's rad.
that gets us to Murph's hollow program. So what was y'all's reaction when Mr. Murphy No Shoes got on stage and started either A, singing, or B, convincingly lip syncing?
Amazing.
I think I
more
said
than
the
ever
same thing that
would like a Murph
Sorry.
toy.
Jankum and I said the same thing like at the same time. What?
There was a moment where I was like, "Can Murph sing?" And then I was like, "No, it's lip syncing." Okay, that makes way more sense.
But I like the mystery, the ambiguity, like yeah, just like how intelligent is Murph? Where now I'm thinking like, oh, he's getting smarter and smarter, which was almost sounds scary. It's like he keeps learning and adapting and evolving. It's like in Jurassic Park when the Velociraptor figures out how to open the door.
Oh no.
This whole scene was also beautifully like realized. I love the
Black and white stuff.
yeah, just like also the place, like that, if you like the outside looked like the, you know, kind of reminded me a little bit of, again, Indiana Jones, like a Club Obi-Wan type of thing, because all my visual references are movies, so but
they have very similar lighting on the table. I actually did a side-by-side comparison.
Oh, nice.
I know this made me, I think also because it was in black and white, it made me think of like Casablanca.
Yeah, that's true too.
Yeah,
very cool.
It I don't know, kind of had like speakeasy vibes. Although I actually think this might be like 30s or 40s, so it'd be like after the speakeasy era. But
I didn't have time to.
Kind of in the same corner that 10 Forward was. It sort of has that weird sort of alleyway look too.
Oh yeah. Did you guys figure out who sang the song? It was great. I like that.
Yes, yeah. I'll talk about that in the Gornites. But it's a very
perfect,
deep cut. That's not a song I think I've ever been familiar with.
I love this era. Like, I love vintage clothes. I was like, what song? Like, I like it, but what song is this?
Oh, cool. I can't wait till the Gornags. That's exciting.
Yeah. Well, I said it earlier. It was Smile and Forget It is the name of the song.
No, I know, but I was wondering,
which is a good title.
Yeah,
I was like, does Paramount own this? Like, is that what's
happening? I'm sure it's public domain.
Yeah, if you ever wonder if something is in the Star Trek universe, find out if CBS or Paramount owns it. Then you can say yes or no.
This scene was super touching. I really enjoyed this scene between the bartender, diviner, and Quinn.
Funny. And he's obviously nicer than that. This kind of reminded me of The Shining too, with the bartender.
Yeah, exactly.
Barista. They were very clear to make sure that
isn't
alcohol. Kids are not drinking.
Yeah, it's true. They said barista. Thank you. You're right. And then what is he serving her though? It's like a Jemja tea or something like that.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in the Gorn eggs too. That's when we talk about Easter eggs and jokes and continuity connections. But
this show is for children, and these characters are children.
Well, she also like says English stuff wrong all the time, like she does like later in this episode, like or like earlier, like when like because she's like the communications officer, and like she did a lot of the language stuff on Tars Lamore. Like she's speaking Federation standard, but she doesn't always get it right. That's like when she's like, why would someone whip cream? It's like she doesn't know what the words mean. Like here, I think he's clearly like a bartender. I think this is an establishment that would serve alcohol, you know, if it wasn't on Nickelodeon. But her calling him barista, I think that was just like her, you know, it's kind of barista, bartender, kind of the same thing. I can see, like, if you're not from Earth, that'd be a very easy mistake to make.
Well, the Star Trek wines are behind him too. That's really your connection. Your Gorn eggs.
I didn't catch that. That's cool.
We'll have to see on Aaron's gonna have to update us. I didn't notice there was alcohol in the background, but if those Star Trek wines are there, that's pretty cool. I saw that they have.
I think it's the same wine that was when they showed the clip of the Protostar getting commissioned or whatever. They throw the.
No,
I think it's the same bottle. Yeah.
Chateau Picard.
But I mean, there's one. It's got one with like a UFP logo on it.
Oh, okay.
Oh yeah,
Did you
there's
see
a,
the
there is a
Romulan
Star
ale
Trek
drop,
wine
by the
that
way?
looks like that.
I want it. Romulan ale and Romulan whiskey too. They both dropped.
You can buy all the officially licensed Star Trek wines, but you can't get a Murph toy.
I
My Romulan whiskey was delivered to my old house, so now I have to drive and go pick it up.
Oh,
that's
that's right.
Hopefully that makes it taste even
Yeah, even
I don't
better.
know. I was gonna say sweeter, but whiskey's not. Well, I guess sometimes it's
whiskey's not
sweet.
so sweet. I haven't bought any of the Star Trek wines, mostly because like getting alcohol shipped is like kind of a nightmare sometimes. But
I did ask Santa Claus for a bottle of Canar. Not sure if I'm gonna get it, but hopefully.
I'm asking Santa Claus for all of them.
I have to have a lot of money.
Well, I hope you were a good boy this year.
Yeah, exactly.
I tried really hard.
wait, how many of there
No,
are they? Can I get like one
there's-
for each of the nights of Hanukkah? Is that
There you
is
go.
there enough?
Yeah, there's
That
probably
works.
enough you could pull that off.
Yeah.
I think there's about 8 or 9, so that's perfect.
This is 8.
Yay!
But we get to see Zero and Rock Talk do like some detective work. You know, they're are the two like brainier characters. I feel like on the her as the scientist and him as the doctor and helmsman and detective.
Mhm.
He wears many hats aboard
Yeah.
the Protostar. But yeah, they're kind of starting to figure some stuff out. That whatever's going on must be intentional. It's like really weird that the holodeck would malfunction and just start using the programs that they all use. But the advantage of it being the things that people use is like using things from like the recent history of the holodeck, like when the Diviner was in there, was recreated in there not too long ago, stuff like that. But the cool thing about that is that it's more like what I was talking about earlier about like that Roddenberry idea of like getting into characters' heads. Dealing with Gwen admitting that she's gonna have to like let go of whatever life or relationship or connection she wanted to have with her dad and kind of find her own way, or seeing like, oh, Murph likes to get on stage and sing, and Jankum likes to work out his frustrations and all that. Dal likes to play captain on a pirate ship.
As soon as I saw that pirate ship, I was like, "This is gonna be Dal's." Like, there's no way it's not.
Again, it's obvious mysteries. The piano has a missing key, so that's clearly that ties into the missing key. So let's jump through the piano.
I like the portal in the piano. That's kind of cool.
How do you guys think? What's the most likely way that Murph told the holodeck what to do? Like, do you think Murph can communicate like through manual commands? Probably.
Yeah, I think he probably typed it
like,
in.
Like,
do you think he randomly didn't know what he was really doing and just randomly created like that scenario and just went with it?
I think these are programs that were just on the Protostar.
yeah,
right.
I mean,
true.
like Rock Talk's vet hologram, that did seem like kind of juvenile. Like, why would Starfleet officers want that? But like some Starfleet ships do have kids on board. So.
That game seemed awesome also for little kids. Like, I love that game.
Maybe it's one of those things that's just installed with the holodeck. It's a basic sort of like Candy Crush or Tetris or something.
Like the kind of game where like adults, including myself, I'm fully like still play like Pokemon or Animal Crossing because they did when they were kids. So it seems like if it's a game that's been along for a while, that maybe it's like some Starfleet officers like go-to game to relax.
Yeah, I mean, Wesley Crusher had access to a holodeck in 2364 when he was 14.
Right.
The guy who's serving on the Protostar in this year in 2384, I think we're in 84. Is it 84 or 85? Might be 85. But anyways, that's 21 years later. So the people that are like adults now, they would have been like little kids during like season 1 of Next Generation.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that makes complete sense. Holodecks are so awesome.
I did love seeing all of the Noam Tellarite pirate holograms. I don't know, for some reason that just was funny to me seeing them run around, and it made me think. Like, I laughed out loud at the one when Dal tells them, go look for clues, and one's like, "I shall go overboard to look," and just like dives off of the ship.
I was like, what? Like,
when I
They
was
just do
watching
everything he says.
when I was watching that, it made me think that like this is fun. It's like all like this random stuff, but it was like, is this even like recognizable as Star Trek? And I was like, oh, it's so good that they reused Dr. Noam for all these characters, because of the fact that wherever you go, the Missing Key Club or the street fight or wherever you go, you're seeing a bunch of Tellarites on screen. So because of that, like it always feels a little Star Trek.
yeah, it's now it just popped in my head. Like a fistful of datas is like very similar with like just Brent Spiner being everywhere.
I'm glad you said that, Rachel, because the one thing that I compare this episode to that one, and the one thing that I kind of miss is that in that episode, Brent Spiner got to play like all those characters kind of different. You kind of like exaggerate these different voices and accents and stuff. And it's like, man, I wonder if they maybe should have let Jason Alexander just like cut loose and just do like all this wildly different stuff as these different Dr. Noams. But Aaron, I'd mentioned that
might be
go ahead,
harder
Rachel.
in animation for kids to recognize that that's the same actor.
Yeah, and I was talking to Aaron about that, and he's like, well, maybe Jankum wanted the program to like be Noam, so he could get satisfaction like beating him up,
specifically, right?
Yeah.
Like you said offline, you said you would create like one with Starfleet Boy.
Oh, I totally, I would make like a biker gang of Starfleet boys and then just go and like beat them all up all the time. I'm frustrated. I don't have that as like an option now. Like that's what I really want to do with my time, and I'm mad that I can't.
That's interesting. What Aaron Wadke just wrote in the chat, because in my head, I like part of me thought about Generations for a moment when this popped up.
Yeah. So Aaron Wadke is saying the pirate ship was at one point pitched as the RMS Enterprise from Generations, but we decided the Royal British Navy wasn't quite as fitting for Dal. Yeah, I think that was the right call. I think it's also like more childish and more juvenile. I want to go play pirates, so it kind of it works much better. Like no teenagers like I want to go play like I'm in a Victorian era Royal Navy ship or whatever. So.
Wow,
I'm sure there's some really repressed kids.
Starfleet Boy was like that.
I love rules.
Maybe this is because I spent a time in like Jane Austen circles and like these are the same time period. I know some kids that want to play Horatio Hornblower.
That being said, I also loved battling the pirate kids. That was always fun. I was always good cop, I guess.
When you played cops and robbers, you're always the cop.
No, not always. Sometimes I was the robber, and I was good at it.
In college, I found out that my great something or other, it was basically a professional pirate for hire, like, and then helped found the East Indies Trading Company or something. It was just like, okay.
Oh, geez.
Yeah.
Well, we don't get to choose our ancestors.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Not all of them did great things for sure.
Yeah, one of my great grandfathers was like, he owned the most slaves out of everyone in Georgia, and I'm like, wow, I hope it like really hurt when he died. That guy sucked.
Wow.
I want to highlight that's actually a great Star Trek tie-in. It is fun if Dal's like doing a Horatio Hornblower recreation type of thing.
Sparkle Sea Hugger.
Yes,
the giant sea hugger. Starfleet Boy, you said like that was a cool use of the animation, right? Like it'd be very hard to. Well, I guess today they have like Gormaganders and stuff like that pretty casually in Star Trek, but yeah, it was definitely a
also
cool effect.
Something this like cutesy would be hard to do in live action without it looking
silly,
kind of weird.
What was it the CW? There was the big teddy bear character.
Yeah, Legend of Tomorrow. Yeah.
I still haven't got to that episode, but yes, that I know about.
Oh, people's great.
I think the people making Prodigy are purposely like putting these cute, adorable, irresistible characters out there that everyone wants as merch, not just little kids.
I love like the Tron like sort of tentacles, like
so
the
cool.
gross bioluminescence.
And mind you, the Sparkle Sea Hugger was menacing before, but then like this part happens, and then Rock Talk's reaction where like at the top of the young, it's a sparkle sea hugger. And like it's so excited and then the solution of giving it fruit and fiber. Oh,
her reaction reminded me of like once I walked to like a place at a Pokemon stuff and they just had a giant Snorlax. And like I couldn't afford it, but I wanted it so badly.
Oh my gosh. I want a large size sparkle sea hugger for sure. Like it should just consume my room. Like
I don't think you're gonna get one to scale, but maybe
someone's gonna do this at some convention.
I also love the idea. She's like, I like prescribe you with like fruit and fiber. I was like, that is 100% something that would be getting kids stuff. You make them feel better with fiber. Like,
now we can add a fruit cannon page to Memory Alpha.
There's already fruit. There's got to be already a fruit cannon.
Hey, that is Star Trek canon.
Get your fiber. Eat your fruit and get your fiber. It's Star Trek canon.
Wanted to see Delta Heart Hospital. I felt a little sad we didn't get to see the hospital.
Maybe season 2.
Yeah.
I laughed out loud at one point in this episode, and it was when Zero is like, oh no, the ship's taking on water, and then Dal be like, oh, you really are a detective.
Everybody had their kind of little snipey comments that everybody else then ignored, which is very much like, like the joke in the beginning that Zero said, and they're all like, okay, whatever. Yeah.
yeah.
I think it's kind of that sort of thing.
I love Murph's reaction
here
when
real family or like a close friend. You just were like, whatever, move on. Like, not worth it.
When Zero talks about how there's no end and that it's meant to go on forever, I love like Murph's disappointment and reaction. Like it just going crazy.
He thought he was helping out. Like Murph is like, yeah, like all those Tellarites went out to like find clues. I'm the one who found the clue. Like, look at me being a good boy. I got the clue. And then Zero's like, yeah, it doesn't matter. And then Murph is like, what?
So bad.
That might be the most expressive we've seen him.
Hey, he can lip sync like Milli Vanilli.
Oh yeah,
he's like skilled. He's like that's hilarious.
Anything else on the pirate ship before we get to the big ending where Zero reveals all?
Yeah, the shipwreck sequence was really cool. Like it was all very good. And again, just the anime. I just like. Usually I don't notice the animation because it's good, but this time it's good, and I was noticing it, which is like a whole different level.
I guess this kind of is a holodeck episode. This end kind of reminded me of the end of Future Imperfect, where like Riker's just refusing to play anymore because he's realized like it's not real.
Yeah,
that's right.
For people who don't remember, that is the TNG episode where Riker is trapped in a simulation, being a dad to this boy on a future version of the Enterprise where he is captain. And that turned out to be like a false reality within a false reality. So it's kind of like Inception or something. See, not only does Kevin Feige take from Star Trek, but so does Christopher Nolan. But who hasn't? But yeah, let's talk about like our ending. Zero figures it out like, wait, we're never gonna find our way out of here. This is just all like a big, long, false mystery, wild goose chase, whatever you want to call it, to keep them preoccupied on the holodeck, and that it was actually Janeway who trapped them. They see the evidence. They like play back the security footage, and they see her with we get like the weird like little red computer information in her eye to let us know that there is weird like programming software involved. But yeah, she was, I guess, hacked by the Vanakat. The living construct has some level of control on Janeway, which is frightening.
Now I want tea. No.
Yeah, I've lost my love of coffee.
That like we keep having a version of Janeway as an antagonist.
Yeah.
It's like finally the Vice Admiral was like, oh, these are kids way over their heads. This is not what we thought it was. And now other Janeway is getting hacked.
Yeah, exactly.
I just thought of something. I do wonder. I think eventually there is going to be like, we're going to lose a character on this show.
No.
I think it's inevitable. I think it's going to happen. And I'm wondering, like, do they really need two Janeways? Like, what if like Hollow Janeway has to like go away for some reason or something, and like maybe that'll be
sacrifice yourself to survive.
Only acceptable if Captain Mulgrew is still on the show.
I don't think she's going like Kate
Yeah.
Mulgrew is so like enthusiastic for this show, right? I think she's having the time of her life. She performs her ass off in the recording booth, recording this dialogue. She felt like
you
so
can
like
totally tell. Too,
yeah, like that'd be such a traumatic thing to be like oh my god, something's wrong with me. My brain has been hacked. I'm a danger to these people I care about.
So the face she made when they accuse her, she looks like so betrayed, and then when she realized it is happening, she felt so vulnerable in a way that like of just like not being in control. I felt so sad for her.
Yeah, it was disturbing.
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah, it's riveting. Like this whole sequence, it's nuts. Yeah,
not the most fun analogy, but it reminded me of like when I've dealt with people who have dementia and like when they're confused.
Yeah, it made me. It made me think like if you have like a parent or a grandparent and you see them like get like real sick or like start to like break down or something, because like you got to think about it from like these kids' perspective. It'd be like probably especially unsettling for them. There's like their like authority figure they look up to.
Yeah.
And what's wild is I believe that Janeway was sincere. It wasn't always the living construct, but when can it seems like you just switch her off. So who knows? Like it could have been sometimes the living construct.
Well, Zero does a good job explaining that, and I appreciate very much so that the writers thought it was appropriate to take the time to slow down and just let's just spell it all out so that there's not any doubt. Yeah, but Zero says like, no, like Janeway's motivations were pure early on when she was encouraging us to go to Starfleet. That was the real Janeway. It was only the living construct when we decided, 20 minutes ago at the beginning of the episode, like maybe we're going to give up trying to go to Starfleet. But up until then, our goals were aligned, so the living construct didn't interfere. I'm not sure exactly how Zero would be so confident about all that information, but I'm glad that it was explained.
Especially glad, one, it's like good to be clear, and like especially for a show that's for kids, you don't want it to be too confusing for like a kid. You want it like I appreciate sometimes I'm confused by shows and I'm like, what's happening?
It is something I feel
I was
like
gonna say the same thing.
A lot of modern television, I feel like a lot of the writing gets so wrapped up in like the big emotional moments, and they're because either we're like, what are people going to remember about this show? What are people going to talk about at the water cooler at work? Like we need to have like these big hard hitting moments, and there's always like a big focus on like the the emotional beats of a story, which is incredibly important, but you need to like think about your plot too, and I think that's a bit of like a dying art. I think in a lot of our Hollywood entertainment these days, like people don't have like a strong of like plotting and like thought out the little technical details like this.
Because it's funny, because I sometimes feel like it's the opposite, where they're so concerned about like no one figuring out what they're gonna do that they make it so convoluted that no one gets it because it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I mean that's a problem too, where you get like
I'm thinking, Westworld like changed the plot twist because one person guessed it on Reddit. They like
that's
changed their entire plot
extreme reaction,
and I'm like, that's insane. Actually, it's good. It's a good thing if one or two people kind of guess a plot twist. It means it makes sense.
Yeah. Did anyone guess like the burn? Like it was a child that was upset that his parents died,
right?
Crying, and it blew up all of the. Never mind.
Well-guarded secret.
But a lot of times, like just because something's more complicated doesn't necessarily make it smarter. But it's a balancing act.
A good point. Aaron Watke, Zero spoke with the confidence of Sherlock Holmes when asserting deductions as pure, undeniable fact.
Well, that's good enough for me. And also, Aaron Watke, I think you had mentioned this in the past, but as far as Janeway, like it kind of took Hollow Janeway a few episodes to figure out, like, wait a minute, these aren't Starfleet cadets, and she was very like gung-ho initially about like getting them on board the Protostar and like going on this mission to find Starfleet. And you had suggested somewhere, I remember reading this or hearing you mention this somewhere, but you had said at one point that perhaps Janeway had been hacked by the Vana Akot and adjusted or tweaked or whatever to be more welcoming to a new crew. If I'm remembering that correctly, this really ties into to that.
That
so
would make sense.
I think it makes a lot of sense. And I think Prodigy is going to be a lot of fun to rewatch after we get to the end of the season. It's going to be a lot of fun to rewatch this initial 20 episode run, and you'll kind of see what was going on from the very beginning when back it used to be like so mysterious, those early episodes. I think it's going to be a lot of fun to compare your new experience of watching it, knowing all the secrets and all the details and everything.
The background, we just see a switch that gets evil. I never saw that before.
What if the character we lose, Fathery, is the Protostar though? Not.
Well, I don't think the ship is.
That would probably mean Holo Janeway would go away too. Actually, so yeah.
Honestly,
yeah,
I think I've said
they're a package deal.
In a past episode, I think the character most likely to lose is the Diviner, like in some big sacrifice.
Yeah, I could see that. I could easily see that.
Look at this shot.
I would love to see like Holo Janeway meet up with the Doctor at some point, just so they could so he could just be like, sure, whatever. Just like the whole idea of all the stuff that he went through.
Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, I need Holo Janeway to meet the Doctor and say something about like no one has any respect for holograms, and him just be like, oh yeah, tell me about it. Remember all those times I'd like ask you, like, can I at least have permission to turn myself on and off?
I'm still
leaving me here.
I'm still holding out hope that we don't lose anyone, but I feel like the stakes are really high, so there's gonna be something snapping. I don't know.
I feel like anyone who's a child is safe because of the type of show it is.
Right, it's true.
I could see Gwen making a heroic sacrifice, because then they could just like clone another one of her from the Diviner. So she's replaceable. Aaron Welke got back to me. He says in the live chat, we established that there is Vodacott code interfering with Janeway's programming as far back as episode 6. Preludes reveals why. They wanted her to be amenable to any crew on the bridge. So Aaron, I know we've said it before, but I'll say it again. Like thank you and y'all's room for putting the thought and effort into making this stuff make sense, because it definitely it pays off, and we appreciate it.
Look at this incredible for the audience at home who's listening, the audio version, just pause the scene where the Protostar meets the Dauntless, and they're looking at it from within the bridge.
The lighting is red. So good.
So good. The sound design in this, everything was so like epic, and yeah, it was a really awesome moment.
Yeah, and
just the way the low slung nacelles and I guess that's the deflector band or something like that. It just feels like it almost gets like a menacing face even. Yeah.
And it's neat that the Protostar follows like a similar design. That's a slipstream ship. Whatever the protocol of like where things should be are, like the nacelles go down into a similar place on the Protostar when the proto drive is initiated. So maybe it first goes into slipstream to get to the speed you need to get to then launch into proto warp or something like that, which is pretty cool. I love design like I love trying to figure out. I mean, it's not always apparent, but I love trying to figure out what the designs mean.
I mean, in this franchise, there was a lot of thought put into this. True. That goes back to Gene Roddenberry and Matt Jeffries back in 1964, when Gene was telling them like, it has to look like it makes sense. Like everything has to have a purpose. And
my favorite was like, it shouldn't be a rocket and it shouldn't be a saucer. So it's be a rocket and saucers. We just glue them together.
Also, the Dauntless is a ship that I've grown to really like. I really didn't like the design of it before. Like I thought it was kind of bizarre, but I've grown to love it, especially these angles. They seem to have found a beautiful way to express it, and like the proper lenses to look, to use to like make it look good. Digital lenses.
It's grown on me.
It has a beautiful side and a really horrible side. Like
it's true.
You can rotate a ship to like ooh.
Except for the refit Constitution class.
That's true. There's hard to find a bad.
Yeah, I think the original TOS Connie, which is almost the exact same shape.
Yeah.
But yeah, like everything post the very first Star Trek ship ever has at least one or two bad angles.
But yeah, Dauntless looks impressive and awesome.
And just seeing it in action, just seeing it do stuff, you know, like chase down the Protostar and stuff. It seems cooler and cooler the more I see it.
Also, just seeing the angle, because the Protostar seems huge when they're on it, and then seeing it next to the Dauntless, you're like, oh, right. Like,
it's true.
I want to see how tiny the Defiant looks like with these new ships.
I think it'd be somewhere in between, but yeah, we're getting so close to the end of the season. I'm sad we're about to run out of Star Trek for a while, but yeah, there's
3 more episodes.
Next week's episode. There's 3 episodes left, but the last 2 are part of a 2-part finale, Supernova parts 1 and 2. So it's just like next week, and then we're getting into the first part of the finale. So I think they might borrow a page from the way Picard and Discovery structure their seasons, where a lot of times they'll have like a 2-part finale, but the episode before that they kind of use to set the stage for the finale or
pre-finale. Stage.
Yeah. It's like this episode ending where it did.
Yeah, so I think next week will be like some big developments, and then bam, straight into the 2-part finale.
Mm-hmm.
I'm so excited.
So yeah,
I can't contain myself.
We haven't like crossed the bridge to the finale yet, but like we've driven like right up to the bridge. Next episode will be like the bridge to the finale, and then we'll be at the finale, and then we'll be done with the season. So
Turbo Lift isn't quite to the bridge yet. It's deck 3.
I was thinking more like a bridge across a river, cannon or something.
I'm just being silly.
We'll go with the ship bridge. That's more appropriate for the franchise.
I just want to say it was brilliant to bring the Dauntless, because like we have no idea what's going on the other side of that ship right now. Like, is Commander Thysis like, you know, in charge?
He's
right
dead.
now?
Like the diviner cut his head off.
My God! Stop.
That's violent for any Star Trek.
It happened off screen. It's okay.
Oh my gosh!
Never expected Prodigy to be those violence.
But like it could be the Vindicator. It could be the Diviner. Like it's.
Although to be fair, sometimes kid stuff is violent, and they just act like it's like have a boo boo. I don't know. This might be because I rewatched Home Alone last night, and I was like, these people would be dead.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Little did we know that Andorians grow their head back if you cut it off, just like their antenna.
Oh, good.
But they have a different voice when their heads grow back.
Yeah.
It could be anything.
But yeah, I think it'll be an exciting couple of episodes. You know, the episode to get us to the finale, and then like the 2 finale episodes. So I'm looking forward to these next 3. Anyone have any final thoughts or comments on this episode they'd like to get out there?
Oh, poor Janeway. I think but either Janeway. Like,
I know. So I think I'm just really excited. The stage is being set really awesomely for you know, some awesome conflict coming ahead. I think like, yeah, it's pretty cool. And this is heartbreaking because I've really grown attached to Holo Janeway. I was like, really, I don't want anything to happen to her, so I'm really like nervous. And I'm scared for her, and you guys are making me more scared.
You should be scared.
This is not my idea. I'm also becoming concerned.
Maybe she'll have a backup, Harry Kim. We'll just.
I'm telling you, Fleet Admiral Harry Kim. It's got to happen. I will make that happen in canon one day.
He has to show up.
Right.
Well, you're the one who came up with that. I was talking about that earlier, Father. I remember now.
Okay. Well, give me credit next time you bring it up.
I will. I promise.
You don't have to. I didn't invent Harry Kim or making jokes about like how he never got promoted.
Yeah.
That's been around for a while.
It's true.
But let's move on to the Gorn Egg section of the show. This is where we like to talk about the Easter eggs and jokes and continuity connections within the episode. Starting off right off the bat, very beginning, opening shot of the episode, we see the Protostar crew engaging in a simulation. That's very similar to how Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan began, with Sarek commanding the Enterprise during a Kobayashi Maru scenario. So
Kirstie Alley.
Yeah, R.I.P.
Yep.
And the glitter smooch had some obvious triple sound effects mixed into their with the new sounds they created for this creature. So definitely a callback to the tribbles established back in the Trouble with Tribbles.
I'll take a digital
digitally
glitter
change that.
smooch.
Yeah, make them all that.
This is the funniest picture. Whenever I bring up Tribbles and the Gornegs on here, I always like use this picture because I think it's the funniest because it's the Shatner looking like the most annoyed.
I would 100% install a glitter like a glitter smooch like a Tamagotchi type program on my computer that I could like interact with and give fiber, and it'll remind me to eat fruits and fibers too.
Maybe
Actually,
that's
that would
what
be
it is. Maybe it's like a like very close to a Tamagotchi program.
100%.
I mean, that's basically like an electronic pet for Rock Talk to play with. So
yeah.
But the song "Smile and Forget It" that Murph is either singing or lip syncing, that was by Troy Klein, who I'm very unfamiliar with. I'm curious, Aaron Waltke, if you're still around, if you could tell us like who came up with that idea, because it seems like a deep cut to me.
Huh.
The barista served Jumja tea to Gwyn, which I actually, when I saw this, I was like, oh wow, I think that was only mentioned one time in Star Trek before, and it wasn't even in our universe. It was in the Mirror universe. We have Jumja tea. It was in the Deep Space Nine episode Crossover. That's where the Mirror Universe Quark offered some to Kira. That was the Quark that was like, he was more like the humanitarian. He was kind of like Oscar Schindler. You know, he's like trying to help people escape the tyranny of the Alliance and Mirror Universe Kira. So very different from the Prime Universe Quark.
That's super meta appropriate because of the fact that the holograms are in this weird, alternate thing. It's like an alternate reality. It's trying to convince them that like it's a hologram, but I mean like a mystery, but it's not. So it's like a weird alternate universe.
Yeah,
that's happening.
Just assume like Jumja tea exists on Bajor in both the Mirror Universe and the Prime Universe. But...
It sounds delicious.
Or maybe Kira drank it once when she was in the Mirror Universe and was like, we got to bring this back.
And Aaron pointed out that you can see some Star Trek wine bottles behind the bartender diviner. I don't have an image of that, but
the mirror thing is like I guess the diviner is more like a mirror version of himself here. So that's kind of cool that he's serving the Jumja.
Okay. We'll go
I'm going to say that Aaron Watke got back to you about the song.
Oh, what's that?
Yes. So
1922 looks like.
Oh, cool. Oh, cool. Does that mean it'll be on the soundtrack?
I don't think it will be, but
I got that.
Well, Aaron Walke said that they licensed it, so maybe.
Oh, cool.
It like depends, like songs, like.
Yeah, I know it's complicated with like BMI and ASCAP and all that.
Yeah,
stuff.
I mean, since it's not a super well-known song, it's more likely.
Cool. I hope it makes it on there. If not, I'll find it. Maybe, I mean, if it's licensable, it's probably out there somewhere.
Where's that comment from Aaron? Because I'm not seeing it.
It's under kudos to whoever designed Rock's Hollow characters. They are fantastical and gorgeous.
I'm not seeing that either.
Uh-oh,
it's like this StreamYard thing behind.
Maybe. I'm looking at StreamYard right now.
It looks like it's up to date for me.
I see it.
You can trust
at what
us.
time?
What
what was the timestamp?
Are we still streaming, or are we in a holodeck that's making us believe that we're still streaming?
I need to read it out loud for the podcast audience. What timestamp? 8:25.
I can read it out if you want.
Yeah,
one of us can. We can see it.
Okay, no, it's right here.
Oh, there it is.
Aaron Walke in the live audience says, we wanted a big band song and his sounded perfect, so we licensed it. Okay, very good.
Well,
I want to hear Bonnie Gordon sing it, The Ship's Computer.
I am sure Bonnie will sing that at like a convention or something.
I'm hoping. Yeah, STLV or something like that.
Yeah, I saw her sing at STLV this year, so
make it show.
Very cool.
Make it show.
Did y'all notice that the Pulp Fiction briefcase full of gold in the missing key club that was gold pressed latinum?
and some slips and also all the different types of latinum.
Yeah, slips and bricks and bars and.
It's very cool.
And this is a cool little technical detail for the hardcore nerds out there, but we see on the display the exact location of the Protostar near the Yadala system, if I said that right. The reason why that's important is it tells us kind of exactly where the Protostar emerged from the neutral zone. If you look at any of the official star charts, you can actually see Yadala. It's along the neutral zone, but it's like very close to like the heart of the Federation. You know, you're next to some other systems like Benzar and not terribly far from Wolf 359 or Andoria or Vulcan or Earth. So they're basically after these next couple episodes, unless they leave this part of space, they're like right up against like the heart of the Federation. So they're getting close. Like it's like early season 2 or maybe even like the end of season 1. Like it's possible like they could be like at our Earth. It's like this like, far off Delta Quadrant stuff. Yeah, it's coming to an end. I think they're about. I don't know what the show how they will fold the Protostar into the normal Federation type setting that most Star Trek takes place in, but it looks like they're there. They've arrived.
But what's dangerous about that is like I feel like the virus can do more damage if it's closer to the heart of the Federation.
Exactly. Yeah, that's why I'm sure that she set a course for Earth, even though they labeled it Terran, the Terran system, which I thought it would be like the Sol system, but you know, they've established there's some wacky stuff going on with the ship's computer, so we'll blame it on that.
I want them to be rescued by Barclay.
Well,
he just shows up. Anything related to Voyager, he has to be there.
I would love for Barclay to show up, and I think Protostar would be like a good place for Barclay
or Lower Decks, either one.
But yeah, I mean, do you have any? I don't like to ask people to forecast too much. I kind of like talking about like the present more than the future. But since I was just kind of like, I guess making predictions, like, do y'all have any predictions for the coming episodes?
I guess my big one is I think there might be something with the Diviner having to make some kind of sacrifice.
Yeah, I could definitely see that.
And specifically for like choosing Gwen over something.
I'm thinking that I'm hoping to see maybe a little bit of this, like more of the construct and some like understand the construct better. Like I think it's an interesting character that now that kind of like the veil's been lifted, maybe it'll speak through Janeway or something like that. So maybe we can kind of start seeing its like desires or whatever. So that's like kind of the thing that I'm vibing on.
I'm curious to see if when we get back to the Dauntless, if it's Janeway or Essentia pretending to be Janeway, or you know, like what is going on over there?
And we might really not know. Like,
curious.
The next episode could open on Janeway, and like we might be like, is that really her? Is that Essentia? Like, what's going on? So.
Yeah.
I'm just curious. Are we just leaving Chakotay in the future?
Oh yeah. No. Oh my gosh, that's right.
I think they're going to rescue
really
him.
care?
I think I think that's going to be the season finale. I think we're going to get Chakotay rescued from the future.
Probably. Yeah.
That's my prediction.
Or he just shows up and rescues everybody else somehow.
Well, if that's all the predictions we get, I would love to hear what other people are thinking. Let us know what you think might happen, but also let us know what you thought about this episode, Ghost of the Machine. You can comment on YouTube. You can reply to my tweets on Twitter. You can join the Tex-Trek Discord. There's a link in the description, and you can talk to us there. You can check out the Tex-Trek Facebook page. But yeah, we like to share the audience feedback. We got some comments from last week's episode, Preludes, that our communication officer Dave normally handles these, and he couldn't make it today, so I'm a little unprepared. But just we'll pull some from YouTube last week. Opinions no one cares about mentioned, whoa, I just realized Jankum could be one of Noam's ancestors. Obviously not directly, but great uncle or something. Yeah, like he's got to keep in mind, like Jankum is hundreds of years old. So I would love for the show to address that at some point. That was a good observation. Wolfram Hart over on, we make a lot of like Buffy and Angel references. So there is another one. It's interesting. But Wolfram Hart over on Twitter said, nice to have background for characters. Filler up shouldn't be a bad phrase. Real life doesn't always move the overall plot forward, and it's good to relax. So last week, kind of just having like a chill episode, recovering from the previous episode. Also on Twitter, Peter J. Hutchison was very happy with the Jankum stuff. He says, Jankum's backstory is everything I was hoping for. So that was the big winner for him. And this is a funny one. Aaron J. Walke, if you've ever heard of that dude, he said, I, for one, loved it. So glad to know he liked last week's episode. Aaron Walke, let us know what you thought about this week's episode. So yeah, very cool. And our friend Triangulum Audio Studios, great YouTuber. He also said, absolutely loved it, but now I have so many Chakotay questions. So there you go. There's someone worried about Chakotay.
I'm very worried about Chakotay.
I'm like a little worried about Chakotay too.
But yeah, maybe we'll find out more about Chakotay next week. And you know what? I want to know about the Aurelian first officer.
Yeah,
I'm worried about it. We're not going to the future to rescue Chakotay. We're going to rescue the bird boy.
I'm worried about all of them. I want all of them.
Oh yeah, I'm looking forward to whatever they do. Next week's episode is called Mind Walk, so that sounds trippy. So I'm looking forward to seeing what that's all about. Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and call it a day, call it a night, sign off. But we will be back next week at our usual time of 7:00 p.m. Central on Friday if you want to catch us live, and then you can listen to us later wherever you get your podcast. And until next time, as always, live long and prosper, y'all.
Listen to the Tex-Trek podcast through Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, or at tex-trek.com. Like us on Facebook at facebook.com/tex-trek. And follow Fathery on Twitter at TXTrek. Please support us by liking our videos and subscribing to our channel on YouTube. Thank you and take care.